Hey everybody, hope this finds you doing well. Let's go ahead and jump right into it. We have a few news stories that we want to get to. If we look at the cryptocurrency market update, you can see Bitcoin is currently trading at around $67,348. It's up about 1.5% over the past 7 days. Ethereum still hanging on to that 2000 level, up 3.28% over the past week. We have BNB down at nearly 3% over the past week, currently trading at around $592. We have Solana just under $80, down 2%. Dogecoin, the largest meme coin of them all, trading at around 9 cents. It's basically flat over the past 7 days, and we have a newcomer to the top 10, which is Leo. So we'll continue to keep an eye out to see who wants to hang on and hold on to that number 10 slot. Let's go ahead and look at the Bitcoin returns. You can see Bitcoin had its worst first quarter since 2018, where that quarter was at nearly 50%. That was obviously a rough quarter. We've had far worse. You can see the last pretty bad quarter was in 2022, when you see we had all 4 quarters were negative in 2022. That was obviously a tremendous bear market for Bitcoin and the cryptocurrency space, and a lot happened obviously in that year as well. But we had a 56% drawdown in the second quarter of 2022. So we'll see if we continue with this red trajectory going into Q2 of 2026. Could we still have another negative quarter? Absolutely, especially if we continue the trend of 2022. We could potentially have some more negative quarters in front of us, but obviously time will tell, and we are in a new type of market when it comes to Bitcoin, particularly when you look at the type of owners of Bitcoin coming into the space and the type of demand that's coming into the space. So we'll continue to keep an eye out on that. So if we continue to move forward, we're seeing that Bitcoin did have a positive, barely squeaked out a positive month in March. We talked about it in our last video that we could have potentially had 6 consecutive months of downturn, but towards those last couple of days in March, we did see a bit of an uptick, and so Bitcoin did finish off positive for the month of March. So we only had 5 negative months and finished positive for March. So now we're here in April, and we shall see what the rest of the month will bring us. Now let's continue to move forward with one of the biggest news stories over the past week, and that is this: securing elliptic curve cryptocurrencies against quantum vulnerabilities, resource estimates, and mitigation. So this is a research paper coming from Google. Obviously, Google, one of the largest companies and conglomerates in the entire world. They have a quantum computer. They're continuing to work with quantum computing, and basically in this research paper they intimate that there's a possibility that approximately a third of Bitcoin could be vulnerable to being cracked, meaning the older Bitcoin addresses, particularly Satoshi's address, for example, which holds over 1 million coins, or around 1 million coins, they could be vulnerable to being compromised by these quantum computers. So they're saying basically that within the next several years, I believe 2029 is one of the years that they predicted, that there's a possibility that there's going to be less need for hardware as initially expected or anticipated. And so now there's a possibility that not only will these wallets be able to be cracked and through the current encryption and cryptography that's related to those particular types of addresses, but also that it would take less resources from qubits. Now, we're still a ways away. I believe that they said it would be about 500,000 qubits, which would be needed. I'm not very technically savvy, so definitely if this is in your wheelhouse, you can definitely read this to see exactly what they're talking about and the type of quantum attacks and vulnerabilities to the cryptographic protocols for Bitcoin. And it's not just Bitcoin, it's other blockchains as well that have some of the same cryptography. But we can see that at least a lot of the Bitcoin developers that are out there, people like Michael Saylor, who's the founder of Strategy, who's the largest corporate holder of Bitcoin, they're in the process continuing to work on what they call post-quantum computing, cryptography, I should say, that would be able to counteract the potential of any types of hacks that these newer quantum computers potentially would be able to do, but we're still very far away. The 500,000 qubits, basically qubits is it's like a source of information for a quantum computer, or I should say a unit of information for a quantum computer. And basically, right now, like Google's quantum computer is about 100 qubits. So that gives you an idea of kind of how far we are away. But as quantum computing continues to get stronger and gets better, and the less resources that are needed, then it could potentially take even less qubits. And so I think the largest, and what I've read is that the biggest computer with the most qubits right now is around 6,000 qubits. IBM has one that's around 4,000 qubits. So it's still far away to get to 500,000 qubits. But obviously, this is something that, Google and I'm sure other research firms are looking into when it comes to the advancement of quantum and what it can do. And obviously, if it's able to crack and have some type of, and be able to take advantage of any type of vulnerabilities in blockchain technology, which is a decentralized platform, you can only imagine what it can potentially do with centralized platforms when it comes to the United States general banking system, where it can be completely vulnerable to these type of attacks by a quantum computer. So Bitcoin developers, the Bitcoin community, as well as other blockchain technologies are already trying to work with making sure that they're able to counteract these type of potential attacks that could come from a quantum computer. We're still a little ways away from that, but definitely make sure that you stay posted, because this obviously is a concern of the Bitcoin community as well as others in other blockchain communities. But it is something that is being worked on. Obviously, many folks who are in this arena and in this realm are very aware of what's happening. So just like we have white hat hackers, same thing when it comes to these quantum computers and their abilities. So definitely just make sure you stay on top if you're an investor on what's going on in the current events when it comes to this type of information. Also, we learned that BlackRock, once again, the largest asset manager in the world and has the biggest Bitcoin ETF currently on the market, they have just filed for a new ETF, and this is an income producing Bitcoin ETF, and it's going to have the ticker BITA. And basically what they're doing is they're going to be passing along the dividends from using a selling covered call strategy. So by using this premium income strategy, they would be able to have a management fee. This would have about 38 basis points, so basically 0.38%. So you want to make sure you have an understanding of what that means and how management fees can eat away at your profits over an extended period of time. But obviously, if you're having really great returns, it's not that much, but it really depends on how you look at it. So definitely make sure you have an understanding of that. But you can see that we're seeing the Bitcoin economy is continuing to grow and be expanded in several different ways. As we mentioned last week, also Morgan Stanley, one of the largest banks in the United States, they're also going to be having their own Bitcoin ETF called with the ticker MSBT, and they are basically undercutting everybody with their management fee, at least from the outset, where it's going to be around 14 basis points. So we know that there are other income producing products that are already out on the market, like BTCI is an example that's become very popular. It's only been out for about a year and a half, so you definitely want to take these numbers with a grain of salt and understand that it hasn't been on the market for very long. But it is something that a lot of people who are very interested in dividend income, having income producing products, this is something that has been the top of the list for a lot of Bitcoin investors. So definitely keep an eye out for all the different types of products that are coming into the market. And as the Bitcoin economy expands, we'll actually probably make a dedicated video at some point when it comes to some of the different offerings that are available with regards to Bitcoin and some of the adjacent assets that may be able to, or I should say that would be potentially appealing for different types of investors. So anyway, we just wanted to go over some of the biggest news stories of the past week. As usual, you can see us here on X as well as on Instagram, and make sure you understand that the institutions are coming for your Bitcoin. So be mindful of that. You can see here the Bitcoin ETFs had its first a positive inflow of funds coming into the ETF. Mostly institutions own the vast majority of the Bitcoin ETF, so it's pretty much a good way to have an understanding of how much institutional interest is coming into Bitcoin. And you can see that we're now back in the positive when it comes to these Bitcoin ETFs over the past few months, because obviously Bitcoin has been on a downtrend since October. So we'll definitely keep you posted on what's going on there. We thank you so much, of course, for watching us and checking us out every week. We look forward to linking up with you soon on the network chain. In the meantime, take care of yourself. Bye bye.